down in Colorado. The Utes over this land here, there's different bands. There's a couple bands, the White River, Uncle Pogrees, they were in Colorado. And there was an incident that went on over there in the Mika area where the White Rivers got pushed over here because they weren't getting treated right. And back then, we know how that goes. So they got moved over here to the Uinta and Ore Reservation. This area here is like what they call Timpanogos, Uintas, the Utes, and they put them all together over there in Roosevelt and Fort Duchesne area. So when my mom, she was from Colorado. She's a Ute Mountain Ute. Our father, he was a Ute tribe over here, Uncompahgre. So I'm Uncompahgre and Weemanooch. And that's how we do that. And they asked me to say a little bit. So I don't want to talk too long, but thank you guys for asking me to do this. And I'm winging this really bad because I don't know what I'm talking about. And yes, and then when it comes to our native ways, different tribes, we all have our different ways of thinking, how we talk. Everything's changing too. Even for me, I grew up with my mother and father listening to the language. I was almost 100% listening to the Ute language and how they talked and how they thought about things. Nowadays, it's a big switch after COVID came, just switched up everything, even the weather, everything, it moved. And our elders way back said that something's gonna come, it's gonna mess everything up. And when it did that, it moved in, and everybody's got their different thoughts nowadays. All the way down to tobacco use, traditionally and commercially. Me, I've been a smoker for over 30 years, and I stopped back in October due to my health. So, and it changes all like that, and we have our visitors here, so you're more than welcome to sing your songs on this land. I always say this is not my land anymore. The white people came, took it all, but be careful with it, take care of it. I live in Fort Duchesne, where I have my house. I live on a hill. Just below our hill, there's a lake. And I said this to the people in Manitou, Colorado. I said, this is my elders' land, not my land. Mine's back home, so many acres. I grew up there, swim in a ditch, all of that. So we're here today. And before I go into the prayer here, I just want to mention something real quick. The late Robert Redford, I met him when I was 24 years old, when this deal first started over at the resort, going towards Provo. And they asked me and my brothers to go over and sing. And one of our late grandfathers, his name was Henry Suspuch, he said the opening prayer there. And my uncle cousin, his name is Larry Suspuch. They brought us over, and we were still coming out of high school. We're just in our early 20s, and we came over here, and I got to meet the late Robert Redford. So I was saying this at the other place. They told me to talk. We can't forget him. No. We can't forget him. Through the song and through prayer, whatever his thoughts were back then was simple, was really small, to make somebody come and do what they thought and make a film. And some of these big shot movie stars started from this little place called Sundance Resort. And then they used that word Sundance. He used that. To us, right, Sundance is our sacred dance. We fast to a pole, got stories about that pole, what it represents, why we go in there, and he named it after that. So with that there, we have to show respect to the family, and I told his daughter that whatever he did is here, and I do believe this is the last time in Utah, and it's going to move to Golden, Colorado, right? Boulder. That's Ute land too, just to let you guys know. That's Ute land. Uncompahgre's, White Rivers, Weemanooch, Muwatch, and Capote. Them guys. So you guys are still moving out of Ute land over there. And that's why I grew up in Denver. So If you guys are not Denver Bronco fans, I'm not going to hold it against you guys. But they play tomorrow, and I was born there. So with that there, I want to welcome our visitors to our homelands, and you guys sing the way, whatever you need to sing, full permission, it's all good. We're not territorial. Some of our tribes are starting to get like that. It's getting frustrating, but I'm not like that. So with that there, all I'm going to ask is you to take your hats off. You can stand if you want. And I'm going to say a prayer for the late Robert Redford too also. Abache one, monam me to puromakane. Me pavichin abache one. Masram nuchu, masram marikachu, why would you chicha abache one? Masra kama nuchu, masram wuchichu. Je will gako fuchichu. The way nuchu, marikachu, wuchichu abache one. Masra marikach no. Robert Redford, yep. Masra smart no wuchichu abache one. So what, born, do what you bump up with them. One Masram, all these people here that come from this all different directions. We come over here, this time here. The man that did this way back in the 90s here, brought us over here. Me and my brothers, our late mother, my late wife and stuff. We all come over here that time, and he would talk how he looked at the people. Where are they going to start with these little films, short films he was talking? People come from that. Nowadays we watch this TV, we watch movies, these people that started at that little areas, and now this thing, it's gotten big. Through his spirit, he's not here with us no more, but his spirit here every day like that. So I want you to bless this doings that we're going to do here today. Our visiting relatives from the north are going to sing a song. That's going to be good for them, for whatever they're going to do here, one today here. So that way, when they go home, things that they're going to do from here on, let it be good from them. Bless our country here today, our world, all together as one, that we can all feel good too as we walk, enjoy ourselves in this lifetime here. Bless those that are having hard time on this areas here too, good times too. But and bless us all here today. I want to say that here in behalf of that man that left this and started all of this here through the drum here, everything that we did. You're the creator. You're the great spirit. You're our heavenly Father too. Everything, however we called upon you, you're the creation, this Mother Earth. You're the elements that go with it, Mother Nature and the ground. I want to say that. Oh, thank you. Amen.
Oki. Hello, Oki in our Blackfoot language. Nistuna Doniku, Arlen Gay Masinski. They don't dome on Scapi Pagani. 60 case at the be. Itami existiku. Inidaki Apistadoki for this opportunity to be here. I give thanks to Apistadoki, guys, against our Lord and Savior for allowing me to be here today and just share our culture and our ways of singing. I'm going to be singing one of my Nina Stusapo Earl Person Agatapi song, his chieftainship song, one of our last hereditary chiefs. So this is his song, and I felt it was only appropriate because if he was still alive, he'll be here today doing this. So with that, let's all stand and honor everybody here in attendance, especially our Creator for getting us up in the morning and being in attendance here today.
Greetings. Hello. Hi. Thank you for joining us. That was beautiful, what we just heard. Thank you very much. My name is Mandalit Del Barco. I am a correspondent with NPR News, and I cover film and TV for our network, and I've been coming to Sundance for like 11 years or something like that. Yeah, thank you for inviting me to be here with all of you for this conversation on a film. It's a beautiful film. And this name of this panel is Rewilding Hope, Buffalo, Belonging, and the Stories That Heal. And if you haven't seen this film yet, we have a little clip to play for you to start this all. Yeah?
The Creator gave us a spirit. If He made them, they have to have a spirit too.
That's a little sample of this beautiful film. This session is meant to explore the return of the buffalo to their ancestral homeland. The film is called Iniwa, the Blackfeet Buffalo Story. Did I get that right? Great. And we have some panelists here I wanted to introduce. First, I'd like to introduce Maureen D. Knighton, Chief Program Officer of the Doris Duke Foundation. Maureen helps lead the Foundation's program strategy across the arts, conservation, and social impact. She has a deep commitment to supporting Indigenous knowledge, leadership, and self-determination at the center of conservation work. Welcome. Thank you. And she's joined by Christina Murmuri. Is that right? Murmuruni. Yes, Christina Murmuruni. She's a co-founder and director of Indigenous Led, and this group's work supports tribal nations and indigenous peoples in leading some of the most effective land and climate solutions in the United States, from buffalo restoration to revitalized fire practices and new governance models. Welcome. Also joining us on the panel is Arlen Edwards, a Blackfeet singer, songwriter, and story keeper. Arlen is also a middle school counselor and educator. And we also have Irvin Carlson, who is co-founder of Indigenous Led. And Irvin is also a Blackfeet Buffalo program director, president of the Intertribal Buffalo Council. And in these roles, he manages the existing Blackfeet buffalo herd. He's also been instrumental in advancing the vision of buffalo once again ranging widely across the Blackfeet reservation, much as they did historically. This film is a testament of how land can, how story, art, and land can transform one another, and how Indigenous-led conservation can reshape our understanding of what restoration truly means. I myself, I want to let you know, I grew up in Kansas. When I was little, I remember my parents used to take us to go see the buffalo out on the range. And I don't know if they're still there now, but I know that historically buffalo have disappeared from many lands. So I'm very happy. That is still imprinted in my mind to see the buffalo. They're magnificent creatures. And this conversation feels very urgent right now. So at the beginning of this film, it says that buffalo have not roamed in the Blackfeet homeland since colonization. And we thought we'd play another clip of this film too, just to show you.
To get rid of buffalo is to get rid of the Indians. So we went through that together. There was a part of us that has been gone for all these years. An empty part, I guess you could say.
So to begin with, I wanted to ask you, actually, what did happen to these buffalo? Why did they disappear so many years ago, and how did you get them back?
You know, buffalo used to roam, you know, the whole continent here. And the story, 60 million buffalo way back in our day. And so they were killed to near extinction. And to make way for settlement, and then just, you know, I was saying in here also to thinking that they get rid of the buffalo, that they would get rid of the Indian also. So it's a real big loss that we've had as Native people. Our way of life were buffalo. And to get rid of them, to make way for the white man to come and utilize the land, and the buffalo were in the way, the natives were in the way, the Indians. So to get rid of them was to make way for that, is the story, you know, that. And now 60 million animals out there. And that was our existence, our food, our clothing, our homes, everything to us. But the biggest thing about that is the buffalo are resilient, and just the same way as we are, and we're close, we're relatives. And they're still here, and we're still here.
And how did you get them back? How did you rewild them back to this land? Maybe you can talk, maybe whoever wants to talk about that. And what does that mean to you to bring them back? Maybe you as well.
Well, you know, the big push, I guess, you know, and way back, and I'm also the president of an organization called the Intertribal Buffalo Council. And that was formed in 1992. And we broke off from an organization called the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society. These tribes wanted to bring back buffalo, specifically buffalo, and be there. And you know, I just gave a talk just the other day. I was at a conference in Colorado. And that morning before we talked, and there's a lot of things that come to me from the buffalo. And I didn't realize that, and it just happened. So I think everybody on that panel used that word that morning. But why did we do this? Why, when those animals were gone so long, why did we do that? And why was it still there with us? But it was in our DNA. It's in our DNA, and it stayed there. And so that desire was there to bring those animals back that were a big part of our culture that was taken away. There's many areas. We brought buffalo back in the late 70s, and it didn't really take off then. And finally, they were put under my direction, and it became a passion of mine to really bring them back. But the Intertribal Buffalo Council was formed to bring back buffalo to Indian country for our spiritual and our cultural connection to them. And that's always there. First and foremost, that's what they are to us. They're very spiritual. They're a big part of our culture. To me, that became my passion, to bring back that part of our culture that was taken away. And we want those to be here for generations to come. I want my grandkids, my great-grandkids, and so on, to be able to see them animals every day, and also to be a big part of our land, to take care of our land also.
Great. Arlen, do you want to say a few words about what you're hoping that audiences who watch this film take away from the idea of bringing back the buffalo?
I think person who works with the youth, not would see the personality of the buffalo, learn from the buffalo, the attributes, because we all know that the buffalo, when they go towards the storm, And so that's what I try to, and I hope you take away that, how you can implement those teachings to our young people. I try to encourage our young people that we're going to be faced with a lot of diversity and things, everyday life situations, and instead of running from them, go right towards it, hit it head on, because that shows the strength of not only Nisitipi, Amskapi Pikanye, where I come from, but all people, can learn from these buffalo, these bison. And that's one thing that I was happy to see, was the storytelling that is behind the buffalo, and bringing them back, because now our young people on a reservation, on a Blackfeet Nation, are starting to understand what it meant for survival when our ancestors were dependent on these buffalo. And so the stories behind it is one thing that I want people to take away, is what we can learn from these animals.
Great, that's great. Well, Christina and Maureen, I wanted to get from your perspectives, how working with the Indigenous leadership looked like in trying to shape this work and the story as well. I don't know who wants to talk first.
Thank you. Well, the Doris Duke Foundation is really committed to advancing and spreading the support of Indigenous-led conservation. Doris Duke herself was a committed and very active conservationist during her lifetime. And we understand that in order to meet the biodiversity goals that we have, the environmental goals that we have, the environmental stewardship goals that we have a lot to learn from Indigenous leaders and Indigenous knowledge. So this is a part of that larger body of work that we're carrying out over a multi-year period. And importantly, tools like this beautiful and affecting film are really key to sharing information, to providing that education, to providing that inspiration as well. And so we're really very pleased to partner not only with Indigenous-led and others in the Native community, but also with Yo-Yo Ma, because these respected messengers really can help us broaden the word about the value of this work, especially at this moment.
Christina, do you want to say it?
You're going to probably have to cut me off. I have so many thoughts. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you that's sitting on this panel with me. It's just been an honor to work with Irvin for a very long time, but the rest of you as well, and our co-directors, Elias Gallegos and Hunter Robert Baker, really stood behind us and let us tell a story, which doesn't often happen for Indigenous people. Our story gets told, and so we get to tell our story, which is a true privilege. And it's such an urgent story. Where to begin? All of us know what the planet is facing from a biodiversity standpoint, from a climate change standpoint, from a justice standpoint. And all of us feel it, or you wouldn't be in this room with us. And I think there's many of us. There's a very large we. And what I've been sitting with and thinking about, and the reason really that Indigenous-led came to be, was a fundamental belief that Indigenous ways of knowing and being and doing offer something huge, powerful, fundamental to this crisis that we're living through, which arguably grows larger every single second on Instagram. And so that's really what our work is how do we give expression to that? What does it mean to think about the world through an Indigenous eyes, heart, soul, spirit? How do we share that? How do we give expression to that? How do we invite everyone in this room into that, to be a part of that? And I ended up meeting Irvin and being a part of this work because I was offered a job that I was going to say no to, but somehow yes came out of my mouth. Thank you, great-great-great-grandmother. And I met Irvin, and I actually dreamed the Blackfeet Nation before I stepped foot on it. I'm Métis. And those buffalo, they are our teachers. They are our guides. They speak a language that is in all of our DNA that we can remember. And if we can remember to speak it and act it and be a buffalo, I believe the world will be a better place. And they're our relatives. And so what do you owe your relative? What does your relative owe you? What is the nature of relationship, the nature of reciprocity, the nature of respect? How can we all be that every day, regardless of what comes at us? Buffalo turn into the storm, as Arlen said. Stormy waters, stormy air, stormy airwaves. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you. So I was pleasantly surprised to see the musician Yo-Yo Ma in this film, and as is sort of unexpected part of the story, but he plays his cello to welcome the buffalo back, and and we're going to see a clip of this in a moment, but to me it's his interpretation of the buffalo song. I don't know if that's how it came to be, but let's take a look at this clip, and then I would love to hear about how he got involved with this whole thing too. Is that okay? Oh, sorry.
Sometimes before I play a piece of music, I actually dedicate it to people who have suffered loss. People have lost health, they've lost loved ones. But even worse, it's the loss of dignity. When you take someone's dignity away, you've basically robbed their soul. The idea of rewilding buffalo, it's not only bringing to the present something that's always been associated with a land, a people, but also the dignity of that relationship. That is what gives hope.
Yes, that was beautiful, right? I'm just so curious about how Yo-Yo Ma got involved. Can you tell us about that? Anybody?
I absolutely can, and then I will hand it to you, Maureen. Creator did it. So I've had the privilege of working as a strategic advisor consultant to the Doris Duke Foundation, actually for almost 3 years. And the environment program team pulled me into a call with Sound Postings, which is Yo-Yo Ma's team. And we were talking about a bunch of different things, and I can't remember who it was, but somebody on the team said, Yo-Yo really wants to go to the Blackfeet Nation. And I was like, what? And I literally had just been up with Irvin and Browning 2 days before that. And so I said, I think it could be arranged. And so that's where it began. And then.
Yeah. And we had been in conversation with Yo-Yo to see if we could find a sweet spot between the work that we were doing and what was happening through Sound Postings, especially under the rubric of a multi-year project he was leading called Our Common Nature. With Our Common Nature, Yo-Yo had toured to and performed and made connections in communities across the country, really drawing everyone's attention back to the importance of the land, of conservation, of the environment, and how it not only connects us all, but sustains us all. So this was a very organic connection for us to make, to lean into this possibility with the Blackfeet and the bison rematriation that Indigenous led and their allies were leading.
That's wonderful. And looking ahead, this project, as I understand it, is part of a bigger vision. Is that right? With a goal of returning 30 million buffalo to North America. Is that right? Wow. Can you tell us about that?
You know, it's always been a real big, dream of mine also, and of course there's resistance to it, and there probably always will be, but to have all of that many animals, that's only half of what used to roam this country. But to be out there, to bring them back, and to bring a big part, back, to put out there that's a big healing, not only for our people, but for our land, and to see them be able to roam out there freely as all the other wildlife. I've been to a lot of places and met with people, and our biggest resistance is the white rancher for cattle. And I've been to a lot of meetings there with them, and they asked me, well, are you going to put animals out for everywhere? I said, well, that's a big dream of mine, but I don't know if it'll ever happen. But we have deer, we have elk, we have moose, all the other wildlife, they go where they want. Buffalo are wildlife. Why can't they be out there where everybody else, where all the other wildlife are? All of those are out there, and nothing's ever said. But you have one buffalo out there, and they're all up in arms about it. So it's a real. There's a lot goes along with it too.
There's a resistance to bringing these.
Oh, there's a resistance.
And what is that?
Too.
What is it about?
Well, it's like I say, there's a lot in Montana and a lot of the big states there where there's bigger numbers of buffalo there and large land base of tribes there, and the non-native ranchers are real resistant to that. I had been to a meeting once, and it was all with the non-native ranchers there in Montana. And so I go into this meeting there, and they're all in this room, and I walk in, and of course they invited me there to talk and to visit with them on it. And so we did. We go in there. It's real. There's this. I pull in there, and I'm parked in the parking lot, and I'm on the phone before I go in, and my license plate says "Let Buffalo Roam." So this old staunch rancher gets out, he looks at my license plate, big scowl, and so I walk in and I know what I'm in for. So it's like the commercial where you see all these people in there and talking, and somebody walks in and gets all quiet. Well, that's the way it was. They're all in the lobby there and all visiting, and I walk in, and that place is quiet, and they all look at me. So I just walked downstairs where the meeting's at, and I just nodded at everybody, and I went down. And there was 2 news stations there. So they broke us into groups, and they came to the group that I had. And so there was a lot of talk, of why, I want to bring buffalo back. And I guess of why they're resisting it. And so even one rancher, I said, well, why? And he says, well, they're predators. And I said, predators? How can buffalo be predators? So then it goes on, and then another guy says, well, he says, we don't want to lose our land. I said, yeah. I know the feeling. And that place just went quiet. I know the feeling. And so there's a lot of discrimination goes with it, a lot of racism that goes with it, a lot of politics.
We're going to open this up for questions from the audience, but before I do that, I wanted to just make sure that people know where they can see this film, and they can learn more about the making of this documentary. Can you say a little bit about that?
You can't actually see the full 19 minutes just yet. We're working with some folks to launch an impact campaign, probably in March. If you are interested in hosting, engaging, participating in any way, let me know. We're going to put these short reels on our website, indigenousLed.org, and stay tuned. We'll have more details about how to engage and also how to show this story. The other thing I'll just quickly mention is this story really is a platform from which we are launching something called the Story Spirit Collective. And it really recognizes that there are so many stories that we need to share with each other. And there's so much wisdom that is held in Indigenous communities, but across these amazing lands. Everybody has stories. And the power of story is, yes, it's data, it's healing, it's connection, it's so many beautiful things. And one of the things I just recently learned is that when we share stories with each other, when we tell each other's stories, we literally are neurally connected. Imagine that. Imagine what sharing our stories can do for the world that we're currently living in, let alone the past. And how do we create a new future together? So that's really where we're going with the film.
Thank you for sharing your stories, all of you. Does anybody have questions here? Yeah.
I just wanted to ask the question, a lot of people are unaware that the Ute Indian tribe has perhaps one of the largest and wildest buffalo herds in the United States that is free roaming in all the ways that the cattle ranchers are scared of. And I wonder what your vision is for how to carry a film like this and the incredible work that Blackfeet are doing around buffalo, but how do your buffalo do their buffalo?
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Well, that's another, I guess, a big dream of ours is to connect that corridor from way up north where we're at to on down to the south here to the Ute country, but also even further on of where you're having those animals again, being able to roam freely and create that corridor. That's a big dream. There's a lot of work that would go with that, but making it would happen would take a lot of people together, working together to make that happen. And bringing people together it will make that happen, and it's a big push, but it's the power of them animals to me can make those things happen. I wanted to just share another story is that we brought back the ones that we were putting into the Chief Mountain area, and they came from the Blackfeet territory and went over to the Salish and Kootenai area across the mountains, and then eventually into Canada and to a park over there, Elk Island National Park, and we brought them back to Blackfeet. And the big story is that and it was a big story, and there was a lot of back and forth, and there was big international news there, and we were interviewed all the way through, and when we worked that, it took us the all winter to do that. And so one day that they asked in the end there before we were loading, asked me just to stand out in the pen with them animals. But the big thing was I wanted to bring back adult animals in the first place, and the resistance from the Montana Department of Livestock was there, and they didn't want to let us bring in adult animals, but these had all the vaccinations good, but the state vet was conveniently out of office while we were doing this, and then finally we ended up just with calves. And so when they asked me to stand out there with them, it was, they told me they left their territory as calves and they wanted to return to their territory as calves and grow back up there. And it hit me that day of how spiritual and how strong that them animals were, that I've been doing a lot of stuff with in the realm of buffalo and bringing buffalo back, and thought, you know, doing these things. And I learned that day and told that day that I didn't make any of that happen. Them animals, that buffalo, they made them happen. And they brought me to a lot of places, meet a lot of people, and brought a lot of people together. Brought all of these people together, the people we have here, everybody that's in here to hear this story. Them animals, that buffalo, they brought that, they made that happen. They're very spiritual, they're very powerful. And the things that we want to see in the future, they're going to make that happen.
Hi, my name is Heather Nodelman. I first met you, Irvin, through Bring Them Home on screen. And I work in Big Sky for the Lone Mountain Film Festival with your cousin, I think, Arlen, Ivan McDonald. And he mentioned maybe your cousin, and Brooke. Are these names familiar? I'm hoping. So you guys, and Daniel Glick. And so first of all, I've known the Buffalo story for a while through Bring Them Home, but I'm so excited to see this piece and learn more and connect more. And I just wanted to basically offer to everyone in here who might be interested and know other Indigenous stories. For Lone Peak Film Festival, we're focused on Indigenous stories and bringing them to the community there and connecting the white folks, which includes myself, obviously, with the Indigenous peoples of the land. And I just have had such a magical experience so far, and I just wanted to connect. First of all, I'm hoping to connect with you more after this, but also just offer the Lone Peak Film Festival. We have a call for submissions right now for anyone who is interested. I'm sure you guys might know more people on the panel and maybe people in this room, and just say thank you for everything you're all doing to bring these stories to us, and especially for the buffalo. The spiritual significance there is huge.
Yes.
I'd just like to say something on a more serious note. Irvin mentioned something like the buffalo room. And I learned something very important by watching what happened at the Yellowstone National Park. When I was trying to go pet the buffalo, I realized I didn't want my jeans on the buffalo's horns. I just had to say that. That was a joke.
Does anybody else have any questions? Yeah. Go ahead.
Two questions. First of all, Alexandra, I had the pleasure of meeting Christina and Irvin at the Santa Fe International Film Festival in October. So I have a question for the filmmakers, but also for the panel. The film's beautiful, so you guys have to check it out when it becomes available. It's very moving. So from a film approach, dealing with buffalo, how do you go about capturing them? They're wild animals. I know Irvin has a close relationship with them, but I don't think he's out there directing them. So how did you guys figure out how you were going to approach that from multiple perspectives, multiple cameras, things like that? And then the follow-up question is, where are you now in the goal of rehoming the 30 million buffalo? What percentage? And I know you mentioned sort of a call to action will be available on Indigenous-led website, but if there's anything that we can do immediately now, just word of mouth, I'm curious to know.
Absolutely. I think the most important thing to know is those buffalo all have agents. And that herd is the Hollywood herd. They've been in every movie since the beginning of time.
The filmmakers, so we'd love to hear from you too. Maybe introduce yourselves as two.
Hi, my name is Elias Gallegos.
Hunter R. Baker.
And during the production, we relied very heavily on Irvin Carlson and Chaz Rosine, who's in the film, they are buffalo, and you can make suggestions and offer areas for them to be, but they're going to do what buffalo do. So we relied very heavily on Irvin, his team, so that we can maintain safety. And we never actually really had Yo-Yo near a buffalo.
That's true. I mean, the biggest thing, I think, when we got approached to work on this incredible opportunity was to approach it with the most respect, humility, dignity, honor. And I think, we wanted to let the story be told by these individuals. We were sort of there as a conduit in which to do so. And so everyone had to be safe. Buffalo are really enormous, beautiful creatures. But they really are relatives to these folks, and I think that we had the privilege to witness that, and that was the biggest thing of working with them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple more questions. I'm kind of curious. Oh, thanks. Forgive me if this feels like probably a very redundant question for you all, but this is also for the filmmakers. I feel very aware of how much space Taylor Sheridan takes up in telling stories of ranching and stories on behalf of indigenous communities, especially in the plains and in Montana. And I'm kind of curious what the storytelling ecosystem is like for indigenous storytellers who want to tell stories about the buffalo and ecology in the face of public opinion that is really informed by Yellowstone and the spin-offs.
Filmmakers want to say a few words about that, or do you? Who wants to?
I mean, I would just say that you watch these shows and they're very sensationalized. I think what they're never stopping to do is to listen and to be right at the same level with these incredible keepers of these animals. And so, not to knock all the Taylor Sheridan shows, but I think there's a separation. There's a melodrama, there's a soap opera aspect that is not what is really happening here. This is the opposite. This is the real deal.
I want to actually know how much money Taylor Sheridan got from the Montana Livestock Growers Association to have that scene where poor Kevin Costner, his animals are dying from brucellosis, which, oh, by the way, there's no known transmission of brucellosis from cattle, by the way, to buffalo. So, yeah.
It's real, funny that you brought that up with Taylor Sheridan. On the Intertribal Buffalo Council, I sit on the Interagency Bison Management Plan at Yellowstone. I've sat on that for a lot of years. And it's there to help make decisions on those Yellowstone animals there. A very important herd to us also, tribal people. And, and just as Christina was saying, I sit there and there has never been one scientifically proven case of the transmission of brucellosis to cattle. And in our meetings, every time it starts, it's right up there. And actually, elk are the biggest carriers. So when I pull into a meeting there's elk sitting out there and cattle right with them, and no buffalo there. And that's where I use that too. When I go in there, I say, well, you hear, what about the biggest carriers? Nothing is ever said about them. They're right out there with the cattle. But you got one buffalo out there, and then you're all up in arms, and I tell them that too. But so everything is blamed on the buffalo. And the ITBC, they used to slaughter those animals just as soon as they stepped out of the park. And we put a stop to it, filed an injunction, got that stopped, and we got in place a quarantine so that we can bring them animals out alive to tribes. And so the Taylor Sheridan movie, they have that in there where some buffalo got into their pasture or whatever, and they had to move his cattle and whatever. And that was very devastating to our fight against that misnomer of brucellosis transmitted to them cattle. We wrote a letter to Taylor Sheridan, and so he sent Mo Brings Plenty out to meet with us. And they promised to change that in the last scene or whatever, that was wrong, but they never did change it. But yeah, that was a devastating thing. We told him that to us, the fight that we have been fighting, that was wrong, that there's never been that. And so when I go into those meetings too, I ask the state vet, I say, where did this disease, brucellosis, come from? So he says, well, this country, some other country over. And I said, well, how did it get here? So he, well, cattle. I said, yeah, cattle. That's where this disease came from. Brought that here, devastates our animals, just as a lot of diseases were brought to us. And a lot of people died from that. So that's another thing, just right in Buffalo and our tribes right along one another.
I think we have time for one last question. So.
Hi all, thanks for this. My name's Trevor, co-founder of the Bliss Collective. Bliss stands for Black Liberation and Indigenous Sovereignty. Good to see you in person, Christina. And so I guess two things. One is similarly to the offer, Bliss is going to be having an event in June in New York called Reclamation Day Reunion of Hope, and a part of that will be screenings, and so would love to be in conversation about potentially screening the film at Reclamation Day. And the second is my team and Christina's team have actually been in conversation about a collaborative post for Black History Month, and so my question is, what ways do you feel like this story can play a role in building solidarity between Black and Indigenous people?
You know, solidarity is at the heart of change, and people coming together and seeing each other as relatives, and that we all belong and we're all part of the solution. We're not going to change a damn thing if we're all in our silos. And the forces that don't want to see change like us in our silos. And they like us fighting within our silos. And so for me, I think what the Buffalo really represent is an opportunity to come together around a shared history of genocide. And how do we heal from that? Not by pointing fingers, not by harming each other, not by perpetuating hate, but how do we be like those Buffalo? Fierce love. Fierce love. So thank you. Thank you for the question.
That's the great way to end it, fierce love. Yeah, thank you so much. Oh, did you have?
Yeah, I just wanted to just say one last thing. You know, I talked about how in Buffalo it brought a lot of people together, and I just want to say that I'm real grateful for the people that I have met, you know, throughout in Buffalo, bringing us together there, you know, and working with Christina, where, you know, the former job she said she had, and he left that, and they didn't want to do Buffalo anymore, so we wanted to do that, and they brought us together. But also for the people that, you know, are helping us along the way, you know, Doris Duke, you know, being there to believe in that and help us along the way, you know, meeting, you know, Elias, you know, and people like that just come together and really believe in the things that we're doing. And I wanted to mention, and it's real, to me, real means a lot how you directed, and it was meant to be that way by Buffalo, of bringing Yo-Yo Ma to us and working together with him. That man has a real good heart, and you just meet him, and in the way he talks, you could just feel that real good feeling from him, and he just calms things when he talks, and he has a lot of wisdom, and he's just a person you feel that has such a good heart, you know, and for everything and everybody. So it was real. I'm real thankful for that, of him coming there with us to be with us and to be a part of what's going on here today. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you very much to all of you, and all of you too.